Welcome back to It's Cosplay Time. As always, I am Chris, aka Mr. Zoom_2028.
I am Clover Cosplays.
I'm Haley, aka Choka Bunny or Ego Ella.
And today we are here with special guest.
Hey everybody, I'm Michael, otherwise known as Rexin Around. Thanks for having me. Please. It's an honor to be here. Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, it's great having you on, man. Okay, I wish my phone didn't lock.
How's Face ID with that thing?
Well, I have the 8, so don't have that upgrade yet.
So you're good.
Yeah.
That is the worst when I'm trying to open up my phone and I have my full suit of armor on, and it's just like between the gloves and the mask, it's like I'm a completely different person.
Which is why I use leather-tipped gloves for every cosplay I do.
Smart, so smart.
Yeah.
I normally just cut the fingertip off my glove.
Yeah,
so
I was gonna say.
you can always see when I'm dressed up as a clone. You can see my pointer fingertip.
All right, question number 1. How did you find out about TikTok?
Yeah, so the TikTok story is really interesting. So I have a business when I'm not suiting up. I have this electric bike business, and I was really interested in like this craze of TikTok. Like, how does it work? What are brands like on there? How are people creating content? I used to do Vine when Vine existed, so TikTok felt very similar, but obviously very alien for me. So I downloaded the app. And every night I would scroll through it for a couple hours and just try to understand the algorithm and kind of see what people were posting. And I saw that there was a really big like cosplay and Star Wars community. And I was like, this is kind of cool. So I started to learn about the For You page, trending sounds, trending effects, sort of all the elements that went into it. And I told my wife, Janae, I was like, Janae, I think I'm going to post on TikTok. And I think I can get 1 million views on my first video. And that was basically like a challenge. Was like, hey, I'm going to be a 28-year-old posting on TikTok, and I want to see if I can do it. And first video got 1 million, and then it just kind of kept rolling after that. And so I dove in deeper and deeper, met a lot of cool people, and here we are.
Yeah, I love those dancing videos you guys do.
Thank you. For a lot of Star Wars fans, they're so. Man, I mean, I guess you could say sacrilegious, because we are just being really silly, having a good time, and a lot of Star Wars fans that are kind of older fans tend to view things as very reverent, and you can't be silly, and we've just completely blown past that, and we try to bring a lot of joy to people by being a little ridiculous.
All right, who's going with the next question?
I can go real quick. So I was wondering, how did you get into cosplay?
Yeah, I love that question. I've always collected action figures. Growing up, just cases full of action figures. It was my most favorite thing ever. And as I got older, I started buying nicer and nicer action figures, until it got to the point where, I was buying these large scale ones. And I was like, well, I need to buy bigger ones. And there were no bigger ones. And so I said, well, I think I just need to become one. And so I started building suits of armor because I thought it'd be cool to have a suit of armor on a mannequin in my house. And then it just the obsession never ended. So I wanted to be a life-size action figure.
That's so cool.
Thank you. Yeah.
So you're also a podcaster, right? So
Yes.
What do you like to talk about on your podcast?
Yeah, so we do have it's mainly a Star Wars podcast, but our angle on it is that we are pretty out of control, silly, loud. There's a chair right next to me, and last week I actually fell out of that chair onto the ground, and whether it's throwing things at each other, it's all about like having a good, fun time. A lot of Star Wars podcasts, as I'm sure or Star Wars videos tend to be a little negative. Star Wars fans can be kind of jaded, and so we try to take the other side of that fandom and just talk about the things we love and embrace the positivity in the community. So we don't ever try to like rant about things. If we do have something we disagree with, we try to approach it in a really positive and respectful way. And I think we've created a really cool little niche part of the fandom that's just about love and positivity.
That's great.
I think one of the favorite moments I saw recently for me was when you threw the AT-AT.
Hold on. Yes. So my co-host Greg was acting up. And by acting up, I think he was just making fun of me. And I had nothing near me to throw. Normally I throw like a pillow, or we had like these little stuffed animals, or little stuffed AT-ATs that viewers have sent us. And that wasn't within my range. So the only thing that I had that I could throw at him was this full-size AT-AT. And I didn't really think it through, but the final result was pretty funny. So it worked out. It worked out pretty well.
All right. Next question. As soon as my phone unlocks. Do you have any favorite characters besides Rex to cosplay as?
Oh, yeah, I'll tell you, it's not a very popular character, but Cassian, because I love Rogue One, and I kind of just love Diego Luna. And so I make a joke on the podcast a lot when I talk about things that I've liked. I'll say I have liked collecting action figures since I was 6 years old. Suddenly collecting action figures is real to you. And it's just kind of stuck, and our whole community will kind of replicate those things. And so it's kind of become a character in itself. So the goal is to sneak into the Cassian show and eventually be a rebel in the background of that show. So that's kind of the final goal with that.
Nice.
So who or what inspires you to cosplay the most?
That's a good question. I think it's the community. It's the friends that are around me. It's the creators. I've got a lot of really cool creatives that kind of are in my circle, and their work inspires me to do more and do better. It's kind of a sort of a friendly competition whenever we're building armor, to just kind of go above and beyond and make sure that it's something that really represents those characters well. Beyond that, I've got friends who they're just so creatively motivating. One of them would be YouTuber Garrett Watts. He has really been instrumental in helping me kind of find my voice in this fandom. He has a pretty big voice in what he does, and just being kind of old friends with him, he's always pushed me to kind of almost be louder and louder and louder, and really like live in the community. So a lot of kind of the energy that we get comes from learning from people like Garrett.
Nice. Okay. So we all have like our own platform on like social media and stuff. And I don't know about you guys, but sometimes like the troll and the hate comments can be kind of like really like overwhelming. And you have a lot of followers, right? So how do you deal with when you get like backlash on your posts? Like
yeah. So I'll just first say that I'm lucky enough to be just to say it, I'm very privileged to be white, to be a male. Like I got really lucky with the draw, and because of that, I don't see as much of that as minorities or people who identify differently. So right there, I want to first off by say that I am very privileged to be who I am. But I do still get, trolls. I do still get hate, and I try to stand up against them as vocally as I can. A lot of times it's just a matter of block. I'm not afraid to block people. I've probably blocked well over 100 people on my account. And I think what gives me the most satisfaction is when somebody creates a long, hateful rant, paragraphs long, and it's crazy. Instead of responding to it, I'll catch it early. I'll just delete it. Because what you've done right there is you've taken full power over their voice. Their 15 minutes of fame by commenting on something you've created, and you've completely muzzled them because they just spent all that time thinking that they're saying something so important. and then you as a creator saying that does not have any space to live in my world, and you delete it. And so that's been very instrumental. I've also partnered with, a lot of the female creators in the fandom and promoted their stuff, because what's important to me is that this stigma of Star Wars is for boys that existed 10, 15 years ago, that's finally dying off. The more I can push them and promote them and help them grow, the more they're going to be accepted for the true fans that they really are. So that's always been important to me too.
That's great.
Yeah, I know I've gotten a little hate for being somewhat overweight in my cosplays.
Me too.
I mean, we all get it. Like the clones in the animated series are like literally stick figures. And people will be like, "Oh, looks like the clones found the ice cream supply," and it's like, I can't meet those body expectations, and so it's important to take away their ammunition by taking away their voice. And if I respond in an angry way, I found they just use that as more ammunition. So the best thing to do is just surround yourself with the people who love you and respect you, and just block out all the other trash.
Yep, I'm no stranger to the block button.
Right.
Good man.
Yeah. It's a good way to go about it.
Mm-hmm.
Auto-locking on phones is good until you need the phone. What is your opinion on stuff getting taken off of TikTok for apparent community guideline violations?
Ooh, that's a tricky one. I mean, I'll tell you, because of how strict and how vague it can be, I just never ever have my blasters in the frame. If I do, they're always quickly moving and not really visible. Most of what TikTok does is it's all like the algorithm and AI based flagging. So normally there's not even a person behind it that's flagging that video. So I try to do everything I can do to stay within the guidelines. I've luckily never had anything taken down yet, knock on wood. But I have a good friend who just lost his whole account because he was live streaming, and they just basically blocked him. I think his blasters were in the shot, and he lost well over 100,000 followers. And he just can't get it back. And so my suggestion to people is there are plenty of platforms to live stream on. I think TikTok should not be the platform that we're live streaming on. It's too dangerous. It's too risky. I would never risk that. If I do lose that platform, then I lose it. It's like, okay, well, I'll find the next thing and I'll find the next thing. But I do my best to stay away from anything that could cause problems. So I don't go near any audio that might sound like that could be problematic. I don't talk about the themes that are problematic. I try to be respectful to everybody when I create that content. So there are obviously a lot of precautions I can take, but like we've all experienced, it's just up to the robot to decide if you're violating guidelines or not. So I recommend everybody to live stream off of that app, Instagram, Twitch, ULive, whatever it is. There's a lot of options.
I do wish that TikTok would actually tell us what we do wrong though when they remove stuff.
Yeah.
Because all they do is provide the link to the terms of service page.
TikTok is a big scary monster in the sky that none of us can see, and we're all just trying to please it all the time.
Right, tiptoe around.
Sometimes you gotta kind of keep your head down, and that app in itself is a little bit problematic just because of where it comes from. And I've had plenty of people angrily tell me to get off of it because of its origins. I think as long as we're being careful about what we're posting and how much information we're sharing, I don't see a problem in using it. It does become a problem when it starts to get used for very serious and important things that can cause us to be censored. And so in that case, the platforms like YouTube and Instagram, as much as they have their own problems, seem much better for those sorts of topics.
Right. Yeah. I know a lot of people got their account, either they can't stream anymore or they got their account banned because they didn't meet the age requirements to live stream, even though they're over the age of 18 and they've sent in their ID and stuff, and it's just the bots aren't there
so
for
weird.
it.
It's so weird. It's like that facial recognition that just decides if you look too young. It's wild.
Yeah.
Which I understand. I understand there's good in that. You know, it is good to be monitoring that because it could become a very dangerous platform just because of how young people are on it.
Right.
So I do understand that side of things. But for a company as big as they are, I think that there's a better way to go about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
Let's see here. My next question was, what is a cosplay convention or event moment that you'll never forget?
Maybe it was because I haven't gotten the chance to do too many conventions, but I do remember early on, there was the first time anybody ever said, "Hey, are you Rexin Around?" I think we've all kind of had that moment where you meet somebody that you know online, and fully suited up, which was even cooler because there's a lot of clone cosplayers out there. So that was really really special. I think my version of a convention, because I'm lucky enough to live so close to Disneyland, while it is closed right now, when it's opened, we used to go 3 times a week. And that was like the gathering place for all Star Wars fans. And so whenever I'd go there, it was like a community celebration because I do have such a presence in the Star Wars community that, we would get recognized 20, 30, 40 times. And it became, we'd go there with a couple of us in the beginning of the night. And by the end of the night, there'd be like a herd of like 25 of us hanging out together, making videos. And that's one of the most special things when what you do online manifests into real life. When you have a community online, and sometimes it can feel a little lonely being like, it's a bummer that I go to work and nobody wants to talk about like my passions, and it's hard for me to connect with other people. But then you all go to these conventions or Galaxy's Edge or whatever it may be, and you get that online community, but it's in real life, and you can high five each other and you're taking photos together, and that's like where the magic really comes from.
Nice. Okay. So my next question is, if you could pick any celebrity or fellow cosplayer, who would you want to collaborate with the most?
Well, it's crazy. It kind of sort of happened. The voice of Rex. I obviously sound nothing like Captain Rex, and a lot of times people want me to speak, and I just when it's Rex has such a specific voice, and I always felt like a fraud if I would try to be his voice. And then recently a dad hit me up whose son had a 10th birthday in quarantine, and they had to cancel the Disneyland trip that he had been waiting for, and the birthday kind of fell apart. So I got a hold of Dee Bradley Baker, who's the voice of Captain Rex, and I said, "Hey, if I do the movements, can you record these lines?" And I wrote this script for him saying "Happy Birthday to Logan." And he said yes, which is insane.
That's awesome.
And so, yeah, he sent me his voice saying the lines I did, and I did all the movements. And we actually posted that video on TikTok because the dad was like, post it online because I want to be able to read the comments with my family. And it was such a wonderful thing to be a part of because it's not often that I get to kind of use that suit of armor to really benefit other people. We do bring joy to others when we dress up, but to really like make an impact on one person was very special. So I would say that was a bucket list item for sure, and I was lucky enough to get that done. Yeah.
Cool.
Apparently I got a phone call during this.
Oh.
What is your favorite / least favorite thing about cosplay?
Oh man. I think we can all agree that the least favorite is that like pure exhaustion you feel after you do your videos or after you're done taking photos, and it's like it feels like you ran a marathon because of all the uncomfortable clothes you're wearing. You don't realize like when you look at a photo of a cosplayer, you don't realize all the ways that they can't move. Like, oh, if you turn your neck too far this way, this will fall off. Or if you kind of tweak yourself this. So by the time you're done, you're normally stiff and sore. And I know you guys all know this feeling well. It's like pure exhaustion. And I would say that's what keeps me from suiting up more often. Being in like a plastic bodysuit every time I move, there's like a pinch. And we do a lot of running videos, and I mean, I'll bleed sometimes and like not really notice till I'm taking it off that like the armor pinched me on the arm, and kind of sliced me open. So that is kind of a no-go thing, but it's also being in it is one of my most favorite things. Once you're in it, I think we can all agree on this too. You become a completely different person. You stand different. You hold yourself different. You look in the mirror and it's like you become the thing that brings you so much inspiration. And I feel so bummed for anybody who doesn't get that sort of opportunity to pretend to be something, bigger than themselves. Every once in a while. We're so lucky to get to do that.
Yeah.
I know, especially for people who wear armor like you and me, it's hard to go up and down stairs a lot of times.
It's the wide leg, like bounding step by step, trying not to fall all the way down.
Especially when you have Velcro straps. It's like, don't move too much to where your Velcro will pop off.
Oh, 100%. And then sometimes I'll like kind of angle and I'll hear a crack, and I'm like, oh, that's something I gotta fix now. Like it is, it's a tricky situation.
Yeah. It's so exhausting, but also like at the end of a con day when you take everything off and you just lay down on the hotel bed and you're just like,
so free. Nobody else gets to experience that feeling. It's a good feeling.
Let's see here. What was the most challenging cosplay piece you had to make?
Oof. I would say my original helmet. Before I was the Rex that kind of everybody is familiar with me with, I had actually built a suit before that, and it was not good at all. It was pretty terrible, but it was like my learning suit. And the helmet was a mix of resin and fiberglass. And so laying the fiberglass and getting splinters every step of the way was like brutal. And I had never done it before. So that whole suit took me honestly about 8 months. And it was 8 months with working like a lot every day. It was brutal. And at the end of it, I basically trashed it out and got a new one because I had just learned so much, but I had taken so many missteps, and I still have that helmet. It's kind of like a trophy. It's a participation trophy. Like it doesn't really mean much because it's, I kind of failed, but I learned a lot through it. So that was really special.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think we all have that cosplay item that we'll keep because we made it, but we're not going to look at it that much.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
It's like you love it, but you're like, you brought me so much pain.
I still have like my little like paper mask that I made for my first cosplay. It was Toka from Tokyo Ghoul, and like it was just like the bunny mask, and like it's just paper and like cardboard, but I still keep it because it's like my first little cosplay prop.
It was the beginning of your journey. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so cool. It's cool to have that. It's like having a before and after picture.
Right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I also have like 3 different Mandalorian helmets besides this one. The first one, I don't want to look at anymore.
It's cool, man. I mean, you can chart your journey. It's like, if people are the people who kind of go to the gym and they take their like getting in shape photos, it's the same thing for us. We take our like cosplay getting in shape photos where our creations get better and better and better. Mm-hmm. And that's really cool to have that progress.
Okay. So at the beginning of your cosplay journey, what like tools did you use to help teach yourself how to use like building materials to make your armor and stuff?
I mean, I think we'll all agree YouTube was like endlessly helpful. The amount of stuff I learned, like from how to lay fiberglass, I would watch car videos because I couldn't find armor videos. So I learned how to lay fiberglass through watching car repair videos.
That's cool.
So I assume I could repair the body of a car too, but I used it for armor. And so YouTube was very helpful. And then just kind of getting on forums. Forums are a little more tricky to navigate, but there's a lot of deep sort of information on there.
Cool. Yeah, YouTube's definitely very helpful. A lot of free education.
Yes.
Yep. YouTube, the reason I bought a heating gun.
No, for real. And now that I'm kind of more established, I try to put that sort of content back on YouTube. So I have a lot of videos talking about the armor to try to help people, because I know what I was looking for when I started and I couldn't find it. So now like I'll try to create the content so it's there for other people.
That's great.
Watching you try to read those questions is my favorite part.
What is your favorite convention out of the ones you've been to?
I mean, it's annoying to say this, but Star Wars Celebration. I mean, it's because I'm kind of just a one-track mind, and so Star Wars is pretty much, it was just heaven. Being there, everybody, knowing every single person I was running into liked Star Wars. Like, come on, that was so cool. I think a runner-up would actually be RTX, is the Rooster Teeth convention down in Austin. That was I was a huge fan of their work. It was one of the first things I ever watched on the internet, actually, in like 2005, was Red vs. Blue. And so I recently got a chance to, because I make bikes, I cosplayed a lot of the bikes for their properties. So I did a Ruby bike, a Genlock bike, and Red vs. Blue bikes. And we had a booth there, and there's a well-known cosplayer. They go by the name Non-Binate on Instagram. They dressed up as Ruby and came and hung out at our booth. So that was that was a really special thing where it was kind of everything was coming full circle. That was a ton of fun.
Cool.
Yeah, I've been trying to go to a Star Wars Celebration, but this year it didn't look like that was going to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately, across the board, everything's getting wiped left and right. So it's a major bummer, but I get it. I mean, I went to the lightsaber meetup at Galaxy's Edge. There was like probably 500 or 600 of us. And I can understand the danger of these conventions during this time, because I probably shook hands with like 50 people, and then I was in bed for 2 weeks sick, and that was back in February. So I can only assume it was it was probably could have probably been COVID-19, just because it was all the symptoms. It was before everything had kind of kicked off, though. But how fast and how sick I got was kind of crazy to see. So I understand, all of these conventions shutting down, because it's like a hotbed for germs,
Right.
It's pretty brutal.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, post-convention sickness is an ass kicker.
We've all gotten it. Yeah.
Yeah, that happens normally, especially it can be worse in the middle of a pandemic, so.
It's like a petri dish.
Right.
Let's see here. So, have you traveled for cosplay, and how far, and what was the experience like?
Okay, yes. This is super fun. So a while ago, a couple years ago now, turned 2 of my bikes into speeder bikes from Return of the Jedi. So we built like whole speeder bike frames on top of these bikes. I put them in a van, and I drove them to New York City. And I got to New York in like 3 days, so I hauled. It was like 15-hour drives every day. I dressed up as a scout trooper, and you can find this video on YouTube by just typing in like New York speeder bikes or speeder bikes, real life speeder bikes, whatever it is. You'll find it. And we created a really viral video, all dressed up in cosplay, tearing through the streets of New York on these speeder bikes. And so that was like unbelievably cool. It was one of the cooler moments of my whole life, especially when you're riding and, I'm in the scout trooper armor, like the all white stormtrooper armor. And I look over and there's a guy just in a taxi staring at me confused as we're tearing down Manhattan. It was a crazy experience. I definitely crashed into a few taxis that day.
Oh my gosh.
It was wild.
That's great.
I think I actually saw that video, but I didn't know it was you who made
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it went pretty viral. And then Star Wars, they sent me the nicest cease and desist ever. They said, "We love it. You did an amazing job. Please don't ever do it again." And which I was like, that's the nicest thing in the world. And then they actually turned it into marketing content for Battlefront 2. So they took it and chopped it up into a bunch of GIFs, because I used one of the Battlefront 2 characters that was coming out. in the video as kind of like a nod to, Star Wars, and they loved it. So that was super cool.
Nice. So do you do anything like locally? Like, do you ever like do any like events for your local Comic-Con? Like, do you ever guest any events with your cosplays?
So I was in the 501st Legion for a long time, which is like a charitable organization.
Mm-hmm.
And that was really cool because that kept us very busy, going to children's hospitals and fundraisers and all sorts of those things. And then just couple situations, and just through things getting so busy, I decided to pull away from that.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't get to these huge events as often as I want to. There's so many conventions in Southern California that that now that I can't go, I'm sad that I wasn't going. Like I would just be like, oh, I'll get the next one. I'll go to the next one. I am in talks with Fan Expo now.
Nice.
We may do something kind of cool when that whole circuit gets back up. So I would love to start doing that, because I think that that's one thing I haven't really done much of.
Yeah, that's cool. I think that's one of the great parts about like cosplaying, like very like popular things with like kids at least and stuff. Like I used to be a part of like a group that did like superheroes, and we would go to like baseball games, basketball games,
So
like
cool.
and like children's hospitals, and just seeing like the kids' reactions was just like the best thing ever.
It's such a good way to give back, and it's so easy. I mean, because you get to have a good time too, and it brings other people so much joy. And something I'm lucky is that I always get to wear a mask. So sometimes the situations are kind of sad, and they're a little tricky. And I feel really bad for the Rey cosplayers or the Han cosplayers. It's like, don't cry. Like, you gotta be tough. I know, cause you gotta stay strong. And lucky for me, I always get to cover up my face, and that makes the kids happy when they just see the helmet. So I definitely get lucky.
That's good. You also probably don't have to deal with you're not actually, what are the characters' names?
Oh my gosh.
You're like, you don't look like them.
It is. I get very lucky. I'm very fortunate to have a masked character, because I've seen some of the frustration. Like, I've got some friends who, cosplay very, very popular characters, and their comments are just like, you don't look anything like it. And it's like, so what? It's not the point. It's like, it's
not the point at all.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
People get too upset over fictional characters, like.
I know. I know people have a lot of reverence. They have almost too much reverence for these things, and it's like, these characters exist to bring us joy. So we should be able to take joy from it that we experience and give back what we can. And so when people start to put parameters on that and they start to gatekeep, it just becomes silly, because it's like, why? Like, who's winning out of this? Like, nobody wins. You didn't need to make that comment, Yeah.
It's just like irks me so bad with like the body shaming or like skin color.
Especially when I did Luther from Umbrella Academy. They're like, you don't look like him. But good, I actually had like a fan who defended me. He was like, yeah, no crap, he's a cosplayer, not the actor.
Good. Yeah, good. We need more fans like that.
Right. For sure.
Except for some of my Umbrella Academy content was actually stolen and put on different Instagrams.
Oh gosh, I hate when that happens.
Than I did.
Yeah, and they don't properly credit you, and then they're just like, "Wow, this is great." And it's like, actually, that's my content. Yeah. Or it's
It definitely happens to me. And the one time that I really pursued it was, they took one of my dancing videos, and an alt-right like Nazi group made a meme out of it. And I don't normally sick my fans on people, but I sent my fans in full attack mode, and within 10 minutes we had gotten their entire account removed.
Good.
And some kids were like, why do you care if they don't credit you? I was like, it's not about the credit in this case, dude. Like, it's about taking down people. It's wild.
And like, you don't want your face or like yourself associated with such hateful things. Like,
it's insane.
Awful. Yeah. Just people need to be more smart about that. Ask before you repost, and then also like, it's one thing to get reposted, whatever, but then also like when the comments are really mean on it, like,
I know.
Me and Chris did a video together. Yeah, and I didn't even know about it, and then they're just like, talking mad shit about my body, and I'm like, I didn't even know this existed, and these people I don't even like know that aren't even like my followers are like, wow, she's so blah blah blah, she's so ugly, she's so blah blah blah. I'm just like, well, thanks for showing me this, guys. I really don't feel great
That's
about
terrible. And that's why it's like it's so important to have your community that like supports you and respects you, because it's such a safe place to go back to when all that stuff starts to happen, because we get it too. I mean, I get it all the time. And it's like just being able to go back to your community or your Discord or, you know, whatever that is, and be surrounded by people who are respectful and appreciative. It really balances out that like ignorance and hate.
Like the ones I hate though is like when they get mad at you for asking to be credited on your own content that they stole.
Right. Oh my gosh. You should have watermarked it. And it's like
for like TikTok, there was a watermark. You
cropped it out
down to cover the watermark.
Crop it out, blur it out. It's like
so annoying. Yeah, I feel you there. I feel like we all agree on that one.
Yeah. Or they're like, why did you watermark it? It's like, well.
Well, it was my content. I made
You can't win. Can't win.
You can't.
I think it's my turn to ask a question.
Yes.
I don't know why I always forget like halfway through every video. Have you ever done casual cosplay?
No, but we were planning on it. So there's this. Do you guys know about like bounding? I'm sure you do, right? Like Disney bounding and stuff.
Yeah.
So I learned about that somewhat recently, which is silly because it's very popular and I should have known about it. But we had a couple of very popular bounders come onto our podcast, Ash and Brian from this YouTube channel called Always Believe. And they're wonderful. And they taught us all about like casual cosplay. So I had sort of like looked down on the people who went to Disneyland in full cosplay to take photos, because it felt very self-serving and it felt very like they were taking attention away from the younger kids or the families that were there. And so Ash and Brian really helped me to see like how you can add so much more magic to your trip by just wearing a couple little things here and there that kind of bring you more into the environment. And so we were planning on doing a day where we made a video together, and then obviously Disneyland shut down. So I hope to casual cosplay here soon in the future.
Nice.
Is that something that the three of you do pretty often?
Well, like you, I was actually planning to at Galaxy's Edge. I actually bought like a one of those like long cardigan sweaters to bound a Jedi. But the weekend I was planning to go, Disneyland closed.
Yeah. Yeah, it's such a bummer.
Yeah. I like doing like casual cosplays on like Sundays of the convention usually, because then it's just like more comfortable, but then you're also like still like repping, you know, your cosplay. Yeah. Or like one time I did a casual like diva cosplay, so like I put in like some like the gamer elements, and then I did like a Dave and Buster's shoot with like all the cool lights around, and those are like some of my favorite photos I have of like my cosplay photos. It's like super cool vibe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see here. So I know you kind of like mentioned observing the TikTok algorithm earlier. So how do you like target your content to give it the best reach possible, and like kind of just what's your experience with that?
Yeah, so something that I kind of learned early on was I was getting like hit after hit after hit, and I was like, is it this easy? Is it really this easy? And after talking to some people in Disney, I learned that there was budget being put behind my own and some others' content, because we were creating content that was pushing the new movie, The Return of the Clone Wars, and because of that, I think that there was some marketing dollars that were put behind some of my videos, which is crazy. It's cool to know about now. Because they ended up actually flying us up to Lucasfilm to do this whole thing at the end of it. So they were watching us the whole time, which is cool because, you know, for months I didn't know. And so it it allows me to tell people like, hey, keep doing what you're doing, because when you think nobody's watching, like there are people that have their eye on you, you know, and for good. So that's super cool. So for me, it was about just taking the videos that were hitting, the ones that really resonated with people, and recreating that same energy. So that silly kind of lightheartedness where, you know, if I bust through the door and I kind of like lean against the door and act really cool, those videos always do so well. And it's the easiest thing in the world to shoot. And so for me, I'll recreate those sorts of videos because I know that I could spend 4 hours making something really impactful and deep and multiple angles and multiple shots. It'll get 100,000 views. And then I'll bust a door open and kind of like twirl in, and that'll get 2 million views. And so it's like, I kind of just learning about what people want to see as much as, you know, sometimes it might feel less important. Being able to take care of the people who are watching what you're doing, it really helps your channel to grow a lot from that. Have you all experienced sort of the same thing?
Yeah.
Yeah. Just kind of see like what tends to do well compared to others.
Yeah.
Like sometimes I'll post a video like and I'll be like, oh, like this is the one that'll like do well. Like I feel really good about this one. And then I'll do some like meme one, and then that's the one that blows up. And I'm like, you know, I really put more effort into this one, but you know, if you guys like that, I mean, I guess that's what you like.
Yeah, it's exactly the same thing. I feel you on that.
Yeah, because I actually had a video that had like I actually had like a professional editor edit it, had all these transitions, 2 different shooting locations. Didn't do well. Did one video with a dab, lots of views.
Gotta do what the little 12-year-olds want.
Right. Yeah. Oh, it's my turn. Okay.
We're hanging.
We're, as the kids say, vibing.
We're just vibing, bro.
Trying to stay relevant over here.
Do you ever like get help, or like have you hired anyone to help you with like your social media presence, with like either like editing or like posting, or like to help moderate certain forums or like websites that you're on?
I have friends who have in the past. I have personally never had to. So kind of fun is in my professional life, I'm a chief marketing officer. And so marketing is my whole job from start to finish. Back in 2009, I was uploading videos to YouTube every single week. And then when Vine came out, I had a little bit of a presence there. So I've just always kind of been on the forefront of creating content and staying relevant. And so I can edit videos, I shoot videos. As for like the advertising and the algorithms and the marketing, that's just what I do for a living. And so I kind of take those tools that I learned from work and I implant them into the Rexin Around stuff, which is why, you know, we've found a good little chunk of success in a very niche fandom.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's been good. But yeah, I have a lot of friends who, you know, they have shooters and they have editors and they have some people helping them with ads, and there's so much value in that. If you are trying to make a career out of it, the only thing I'm always cautious of is kind of making money on this stuff, because Star Wars could come in at any time and be like, what are you doing? Stop.
Right.
Like, can't make money. So I want to show that I respect them by not cashing in on what they're doing. So it's kind of a fine line that you have to, I mean, we all probably do the same thing where we're like kind of balancing between it.
Yeah, because it's not your own character. It's not your own film.
Exactly.
So.
I don't want them to come and shut me down.
Right. That's the last thing you want.
Yeah.
All right, I think I have 2 questions left. All right, what is your weirdest cosplay experience?
Oh, the weirdest for me. Now, again, I'm a guy, so I've gotten very lucky to not have to deal with a lot of the struggles that, you know, female cosplayers go through. I would say for me, it was I was doing a baseball game with the 501st. It was the last baseball game I ever did. And there was a drunk guy that came up to me and he was like, oh, how good does this armor work? And he just started like smacking me so hard,
my
like brutally. Like it was like ringing my head, and it was like the armor pieces were like slamming into my my chest, and it was really it was like it was honestly assault, and I should have done something about it. When you're in cosplay though, and I think we've all kind of had these situations, you kind of just sort of lock up. You don't think about like, you don't think like, hey, I have rights, because you're just trying to make other people happy. And so for me, that was, in the moment it happened, and I had some people rush over and stop him from continuing, but you're kind of powerless in the moment. And that was one of the reasons why it was the last time I ever suited up at like a drinking event, because it's not worth it. And so, I don't want to bring the tone down by talking about assault and things like that, but those are very real things in the cosplay community.
It's important to remember cosplay is not consent in any form.
Yep, I've
not allowed to just touch people, touch their armor, their props. You gotta ask first. Just
because I did have a Deadpool two-hand grab my ass when he was hugging me.
And Deadpool, there's a lot of really great Deadpool cosplayers out there, like really, really great people. But with the great ones, you get the not so great ones, and you get the ones that think that they're really Deadpool and that they're really in a comic book. And it's not real life. You can't go about acting like that and get away with it. And I think these fandoms, they attract, they always attract the people who identify with their struggle. And so you see these fans that didn't get a chance to kind of have that same social awareness, see a character that they love, and because they're not so socially aware of what's a show and what's not a show and what's a movie and what's not a movie, they kind of lose sight of everything except that is the person, that is the character that I love on the screen. I'm going to go interact with them in the way they would interact on the screen. And so you start to get a lot of these sorts of issues with grabbing, or, not asking before, or hugging, or, even not asking before taking a picture that maybe you shouldn't be taking. There's so much of that in this community. So I think there needs to be more awareness, and I think conventions have done a great job of making awareness over the last few years. Obviously still more work to do, but fans need to really understand that, like, just because you're dressed like somebody that they in their mind have a relationship with, you're not that person.
Right. Yeah. And if you even like look a little bit deeper in it, like Deadpool would probably like have a fight with them if like he saw him do that. Like, because like their character's usually not, promoting being a jerk and like not, asking first and stuff. Like they just like take and pick like the goofy, like sporadic, like funny sides, and then they're like, let's do that. But in reality, it's like, no, that's not allowed. Yeah.
I completely agree.
Yeah. I also agree with like the being in like drinking situations, like either like late night at conventions, or like when I was at a baseball game. It was like one of my first events with like my superhero group, and I was dressed as Black Canary, and this family was like, oh, like it's my son's birthday, can you guys like come in and like wish him happy birthday for like his birthday cake, like help sing happy birthday. And we were like, yeah, of course. So I had like me and my friend, she was Harley, and then we had some like other superheroes, and then the dads are like, oh, we got girls for you guys. And I was like, I am 18 years old. Like, I am really here for like help your little kid have a good birthday. Like, no. So we just said happy birthday and we did. But I was like, that's so not appropriate right now.
Yeah, that's gross. And it normally is. It's normally the people who aren't really from our generation, who they don't understand the new way of communicating with people because they come from a different time. And, I do try to be patient with them, but there is a line where you draw where you're like, okay, that crossed the line. Now we're done.
Yeah. I was really glad I had some of like our guy friends there with us, because if it was just us girls, like we'd probably like, it's like, in the moment you think you're gonna like stand up for yourself and say something, but in reality we were just like really like awkward and like shy and like afraid of like any kind of confrontation. So we were just it's like,
overwhelming.
Like, oh.
I can understand.
Yeah. But like guys were like, yep, we're gonna like leave. We're not gonna be in this situation anymore. So
it's terrible.
It's really important to have good friends around you that'll take care of you.
Completely agree.
Yeah. And also on a slightly different note, for cosplaying, it is good to have a friend as your handler.
Yeah.
Especially with armor and helmets, where sometimes you can't see like your full field of vision.
The amount of times somebody has had to like be like, hey, there's a little kid trying to get a photo with you because I can't see down, and there's a little kid hanging on my leg that I didn't know was there.
Yep, I've had that.
Yeah.
Because I did a Deathstroke, he has like one eye that's like completely covered. So the kid ran away from the parents to get to like grab me, and I was on the blind side. So all it was, I felt something hit my leg armor. I freaked out for a second, like, what is that?
Yeah, that's crazy. I've been there, definitely been there.
Or like running into a table.
Yeah. Or especially like when you need to drop your bags and someone wants a picture. You're like, here, hold this real quick. You gotta take your picture and then go back. Yeah.
Or the dreaded getting snagged on somebody else's cosplay.
Oh gosh.
Permanently tied together now.
So I know you mentioned like kind of having to work around Disney and their kind of like guidelines and copyright and all that. So how do you work with like self-promotion or like marketing, and what would be your advice for like smaller accounts starting out with that?
Yes. So I love that question. I realized probably about a year and a couple months ago that people only cared about Captain Rex, and I had created this whole persona around a character that wasn't me. And to some of my friends who have big accounts, it's like that's all that they want, and that's great. And if they ever take the helmet off, they won't necessarily get the same reaction. And so for me, I realized quickly that like, hey, I need to be doing something outside of armor that is important. And so what that kind of came down to was when we launched the podcast. I wanted to give people an inside look at who the people were inside the armor. So I got a couple of my friends who also make armor, and we just started talking about everything. Very, loosely fun, relatable, but we started making sure that they saw us with our helmets off. Even our profile pictures, all of our profile pictures switched to helmetless. So you'll see me, I'm always holding the helmet up so that you can see my face. And the idea there is to create a brand for yourself that if you ever switch characters or switch out of the armor, people still know you. They still want to follow you. And as a result, I mean, we have, meme accounts that will meme us, and we have a huge Discord and a whole community of people that are here for us rather than the characters. The characters are now just kind of a side thing that is really cool for everybody. And that was the goal. And so if I could have done it again, I would say from the beginning, make sure that your followers are familiar with who you are outside of your cosplay, because your cosplay doesn't define you. It's a part of your personality that you love. It's, maybe the most colorful part of your personality, but it is not you. Make sure that they know who you are. And that's kind of a big one. And, then you want to talk merch and you want to talk, brand deals and things like that. It makes it way easier because brands won't be scared to pay, a Star Wars character or a video game character to promote something.
Yeah. It's really good, and that's something that I didn't do in my beginning too, and now I'm starting to like feel it a bit. Like when I post like on Instagram, I'm like, well, I want to post like my own selfies or like my own content or like other characters, and then like I'll notice it doesn't do as well. Like, and that's like not the most important part, but when people start saying like, oh, where's Ella? Like, where's your Ella cosplay? Like, where's this? Where's that character? Like, I'm here for that. And it's like, oh, geez, like, well, now I feel like I owe them, like, to, like, only post that. But then it's like, well, that's not what I want. You know what I mean? Like, I'm my own person. I should have made that clear. Like,
and I think you'll find that what I did was when I wanted to start familiarizing people with who I was, I would lead with a photo of Captain Rex, and it would be a swipe through. So they would get their Rex, and then if they wanted to swipe through, they could see me, and I would be talking about the armor or something so that it still added value to what that was. And it was kind of a slow little process. But, like I said, I also have friends who will never remove the helmet on anything. And they've got, a really big following and it's what they want. They want to be a representative for that character. So that's great as well. But if it is something, if you do want people to identify with you, start kind of working yourself in there, and you'll lose followers for sure. I definitely lost followers, but the real ones will stay, and you can build a new community off of that.
Yeah.
I know I probably should have done that, because now anytime I do content outside of Rainbow Six Siege, I don't do too well, which is also why I made a separate Mandalorian account on TikTok.
It can get tricky. I mean, because you start to get people used to seeing one thing, and then you go, psych, here's something else. And they're like, whoa, I don't want that. But it's like, you do want this. It's the same person. You just got to give it time. So yeah, it's a process. It's definitely a process.
I think it's my turn, or is it Haley's turn?
I think it's my turn. Let's see. So when did you start cosplaying? Like, how long have you been doing this for? Did you say 6 years?
Yeah, it's about 6 years now. But I mean, I used to dress up as Jar Jar Binks when I was a little kid.
Oh my gosh.
My mom made me a Jar Jar costume, and I used to have the mask, and we would draw the little orange squigglies on my arms. So that's where it really began. And when I wasn't that, I was always like dressing up as G.I. Joe. So I've always dressed up. I was doing camouflage face paint, running through the gutters. So it's always been a part of who I am. But the real armor stuff started. I started building my original suit 6 years ago, and then 3 years ago was when I got the Rex that everybody knows.
Okay, cool.
So yeah.
Nice.
All right, so I think this is my final question.
Okay.
Was Rex your all-time dream cosplay, or do you have one that you would want to do if money wasn't an issue?
The money one's a big one, I think we're all limited in some degree by money. I always wanted to do a really, really good Snake Eyes. That's a G.I. Joe, the ninja from G.I. Joe. I think, if money wasn't an issue, that would be the other one. But Rex I'm just a massive fan. I've got Rex tattoos here. I've got him on the back of my arm. I've got him on my ribs here. I'm a huge, huge fan of Captain Rex and kind of everything that character is. So it definitely is a dream cosplay for me. But yeah, we talking unlimited budget, Snake Eyes would be really cool.
Nice.
Also, I'd need to work out a little bit more, and that's just not going to happen. So.
I feel that.
Yeah, I think we all feel that one.
I think we're all there. It's like, it'd be super cool, but a bodysuit would be cool too. I'll just buy a muscle suit.
Yeah.
Armor hides a lot of things.
And that's why I wear it, man.
Amen to that.
This is my final question as well. But what equipment do you use to shoot your videos?
So most of my TikToks are just done on my phone, and I use Final Cut Pro, but I will bust out the big guns for a lot of the more cinematic stuff. So the project I did with D. Bradley Baker, who's the voice of Rex, we use some DSLRs. So we'll use Canon 5D Mark IIIs, we'll use Sony A600s. Being in a marketing department, which is currently where I'm at, we have a lot of access to equipment and, lighting. I've got studio lighting. We have 4-channel changers for cameras. So anything we do on the podcast side of things, we can kind of switch between camera angles. So, I've been lucky enough to have a lot of tools. But to be honest, some of my most popular TikToks are shot with a phone. I think we're all there too.
Yeah.
So you can throw all the money you want at equipment, but a phone will get you viral.
True.
That moment when your phone shoots better quality than most of the cameras.
Right? I know. It's all about lighting. I mean, if you can get good lighting, a cell phone is more than enough.
Okay, so this is my last question too, but if you could send one message out there to all your fans and supporters, what is the one thing that you would want to get across with your...
Man, I mean, in this environment, there's a lot. I think that what's most important is acceptance. I think that what a lot of people, and I see it on TikTok, what a lot of people struggle with is accepting things that are different than their normal life. We were all raised by our parents or, by people in our life who already had their own opinions. And as you get older, you realize that those opinions don't necessarily have to be your opinions. It doesn't make them wrong and it doesn't make you right, but opinions change from time to time. And so I think the biggest thing is to, rather than try to attack a creator and say what's wrong with what they're doing, try to find things that you like. If you start to look at things as, well, what do I like about this video? What do I like about this movie? What do I like about this cosplay? You start to be way more appreciative of those things. And, I think my community has done a great job of, rather than saying what they didn't like about something, because, Star Wars fans, they're happy to talk until the sun goes down about things they didn't like. By talking about the things that we love and that we appreciate, we're able to have a way better conversation. So find things you appreciate, give things a chance, and don't be so quick to judge. That'd be kind of what I'd want to share with people.
That's great. It's really good that you're promoting that. With having a big platform, it's really important that people, especially younger kids, understand that just because it's different doesn't mean that it's wrong.
Exactly. That's so right. Times are always changing. Things are always changing. And so we have to be quick to assess the situation and see where the positives are within it. Because there's always good. Nobody goes out in the morning trying to be a villain. Right. There's very few people that do. And so finding the good in people allows you to really empathize with them.
Nice.
Cool.
All right. I think we have one more thing before the outro. And it is, do you have any new cosplays that you want to tease? Anything you want to shout out?
Ooh. I have currently 6 helmets on the way. So I've got 6 new helmets I'm going to be working on. Well, during quarantine, I got really bored and I was like remaking helmets. And so I started ordering a lot. But, in my head, I didn't think that quarantine would end, and so here in California, we're kind of back to work. And so I still have these helmets coming in, so I'm going to start to work on them. But I've got a lot of new Clone Wars characters coming. I've got some new lightsabers coming as well. So, nice. Kind of getting content refresh on everything here in about a month. So I'm excited for that.
Cool.
All right.
If there's nothing else, thank you all so much for having me. What a really cool platform to be able to talk to you and all of your viewers on. I wish more people would do this sort of thing because what you guys are doing is really cool and special, and I'm honored to be a part of it. So thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for being on the show.
Coming here. Yeah.
All right, I think it is outro time. All right, as always, I have been Chris, aka Mr. Zoom _2028.
And Clover Cosplay.
And Haley, aka Toka Bunny or Eagle.
And our guest has been
Rexin Around. Thank you, everybody.
All right.
And good night, good day, good afternoon. Is that the button? I hope so.